The client is a director of environmental services for a major hospital in Detroit. The department consists of about 100 unionized employees and a 5-member management team. One day, I get a call from the director of environmental services, and he says that something's just not right. And he says that morale is down, he says that turnover is up, and he thinks that his night shift supervisor may be involved in whatever's going on. So he wants me to get involved. We agree that I would, and a few days later, I show up at the account and start talking with employees. I also am talking with the supervisor. Of course, the first visit, nothing materializes. So I come back a few days later where once again, I'm just talking with employees and talking with the supervisor. And as I'm getting ready to leave, one of the female employees approaches me and says she'd like to talk to me. So we agree that the best way to do this, since she was a unionized employee, would be to have the shop steward present if she felt comfortable, in which she agreed that she felt comfortable with the shop steward. So we agreed to meet a few days later at a separate location. During our meeting, the employee proceeds to tell me that there are some things that are going on in the night shift that she's not very comfortable with. One is that the supervisor on the night shift tends to disappear, and he can be gone up to 45 minutes at a time, and he's seen taking female subordinate employees into offices with him and locking the door. Also, there was another coworker that approached her and says that there's a temp employee that is offering sex for money and had wanted to know if he was interested. And then finally, this employee proceeds to tell me that during meetings that the manager of the department will often joke about this nighttime or night shift supervisor's personal life and how he has an active dating life, as he calls it. And sometimes he refers to his van as the Pussy Mobile. I proceed to go ahead and get a statement and acknowledge the conversation transpired. We get dates, times, and places, as well as names of any witnesses. I then call the director of environmental services, inform him of what we're dealing with. He in turn reaches out to the hospital director. And meanwhile, I also reach out to the SEIU, Service Employees International Union, and let them know that I'm going to be doing an investigation. Would they like to have one of their reps come down with me to participate, or shall I continue using the shop steward? At this time, we go ahead and agree that the shop steward would be appropriate for this series of interviews, and just to keep them informed. So a few days later, we set up the first interview, and it's with the male employee that had been approached by this temp employee about sexual services. He proceeds to share his story. I get him to write me a statement, locked in dates, time, places, and names. And also he expresses that he has seen this here in the evening behind closed doors with female subordinate employees. And he seems to have a very active selection of employees, because there seems to be 2 or 3 on the shift that go in behind locked doors with him. So I get their names. A few days later, I interview them one-on-one. And all 3 of them, there was three employees, all but one deny what was taking place. However, the one that shared with her story was willing to put it in writing. And then furthermore, we went ahead and looked at video feed. There's cameras throughout the hospital, and we took the luxury of looking at those cameras, and on a couple occasions we saw him go, this supervisor on the night shift, go behind closed doors with female employees, and also on one occasion go behind closed doors with this temp employee. And they were in there about 45 minutes to an hour on each occasion. Finally, we set up an interview with the manager. The director and I sit down and talk with the manager and share our concerns based on what we've heard. The manager initially denies any wrongdoing, but however, he says he finally came around and says, yeah, I sometimes joke and do make references regarding this guy's vehicle, and it's probably not the best thing. So we get a statement from him. And then finally, we sit down and talk with the supervisor of the evening shift, who initially denies the whole story, doesn't know what's going on. However, through a series of questions using Wicklander techniques, I finally am able to extract a confession. And once we get the confession, I get him to write a statement, dates, time, places, people. And finally, we suspend pending investigation. The Director of Environmental Services and I, once we had all the statements, we went ahead and reviewed the statements, looked at the timeline of events. We also looked at the video feed, and then we put together a report. We made an appointment with the hospital director, and during that visit with the hospital director, it was agreed upon that the supervisor who put the hospital in grave liability for his activities, we'd go ahead and terminate him. We also agreed that the comments made by the male manager was inappropriate, and we would go ahead and terminate him as well. When it came to the 3 subordinate employees, we agreed that the best approach would be to go back and do training, document that training, because terminating those 3 employees might put the hospital in a liability in that their activities being preyed upon by a supervisor might put them in a position where they felt compelled to engage in this behavior. They had no other option. So we went ahead and took the safe route, we documented, and we notified the SEIU of our final decision and the course of action we would like to take. And then finally, we notified the temp agency, and we let them know that what our investigation had uncovered and that we would no longer need the services of that temp employee anymore.